All right, I do believe we're live now.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, I'm still getting used to the new setup. I still don't have our audio line, our intro, or anything like that yet. I gotta put it in post. A little bit lame.
I don't know. What are we on? We're on, like, this is episode 30 something.
No, we're on now, dude.
Awesome.
Oh,
Double digits. I'm very, very happy.
the big 1-1.
That's a Tool song. I believe that's a Tool song.
11.
Yeah, 11. I don't know how you the rest of the words are. Maybe we can wrap the episode.
Let's say outside of their radio, I can't think of the thing off the top of my head.
Yeah, they're one of the rare bands like actually like has the radio hits and they have the popular, backing, and they have the whole underground about it too, because they actually own all their music. They're one of those bands that they do everything is self by them.
Oh, that's cool.
They have Nine Inch Nails and stuff, but that's a podcast, right?
All right. So, episode 11. Since we're both working men now, have you had any time this past week to be able to play anything?
Very little time being a man. But one thing I have done is I picked up a crap load of card games that I have yet to play, and I have been heavily reading talked the death out of this new Dungeons and Dragons book. I think I talked a little bit about last podcast, so I've been doing my homework on that. Getting excited about that.
I still need to crack my manual open. I haven't been doing anything at all on it yet.
Oh, Kyle.
I know. The last 2 nights I've been doing the disposable stream and been like, I'll get around to it.
Yeah, you gotta get on that, man. Well, we have time. I mean, I still have like a whole campaign and stuff. But I've been reading. I don't know. I've been reading it heavily, just trying to absorb as much information as possible. And just a little bit scatterbrained in the book.
Yeah.
Just trying to kind of recover the basics. But I have most of it down just by playing the game.
Well, maybe you get on Dungeon Master.
I can probably, if you played for long enough, then you should be able to DM it. So I mean,
yeah, I've got confidence.
yeah, I'll do it. Probably help me once everybody starts just telling me what characters they want to play and what class. Then I can do more focused search classes and be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, here's. I've been kind of around with making a few kind of ideas, like, oh, here's a counter, because that always adds like a new layer of like vibrancy to the game. It's a lot I mean, become just reading and research. If you're a game something board game, it doesn't have to be Dragon's Pastime. Like they have role playing games for superheroes. I've mentioned this so much, but stuff will it has to help you some way.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I went to school for design, and for we had a game, and the teacher. I mean, everybody except for me, and it was totally allowed and encouraged to originally, games, regardless of whatever mechanics. But he's like it all breaks down into numbers, down into stuff that you down. Some super complicated, but that's down into. So there's no reason you can't come up with a design, even if you don't have programming skills.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's one thing I've noticed. And then the pieces do come there. It's not I call it erroneously complex. I mean, once you figure it out, it does break down very simple, things. Depending on what version you're playing. I played some much more complex game. It's all the same thing. You just all they did was just add some more stats and different special abilities and things like that. Maybe just a few things work just a little differently, but it's all within that same thing. So I definitely recommend. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the gist of what I've been doing is on that. I really wanted to play some Atari. What I ended up doing instead was I found a lot of games and I picked up just a lot of really cool titles. And since you've probably played a few more of these than I have, maybe you can tell me what's cool and what's shit.
Yeah, I see. Like I've played most names for the 2600, but I haven't gotten any of the obscure stuff. Like my wife and I should say my wife and I, but my wife found somebody, on like Craigslist that who's selling of old for real cheap. So she's talking with that person right now, and hopefully I'm gonna have a whole pile of new 2600 games here soon to be able to jam out on and see. Like I'm curious, like as excited as I am to get all of it, I'm really curious to see what mix is in there because I have no clue.
Yeah, I found a few places. I mean, you can really get a lot of people will just sell boxes of video games online. And
yeah, that's essentially what it is. But yeah, I mean, that's recently I've been playing. I picked out a few of my favorite Atari games for this episode. They're pretty much just big obvious ones. One of my favorites is Pitfall, which is usually on one of the top lists for every Atari fan. But good reason though. I mean, it's awesome. I love it. It's like the grandfather to Super Mario Brothers.
It is. It's kind of it's one of the. I'd probably call it like the first action adventure game in a way, almost.
Yeah, I mean that's Pitfall. Pitfall is pretty much credited with helping expand that entire genre. I mean it came out in '82. Like there wasn't anything quite like that back in 1982. I mean even the graphics, we look back on it and it looks fairly simple, but if you compare the graphics to Pitfall, it's like almost on par with arcade games at the time. Like it was cutting edge for its time.
Yeah. Well, it was also like the first game where the person, maybe not the first game, but it's one of the first ones where the figure looked kind of like a person. It looked like a human being in a way.
Yeah.
And the motion looked somewhat fluid.
Yep.
So I mean, for the time, you're like, holy crap! Nowadays, a kid's looking at it like, what the fuck is this? And they're doing like a zoom up on the rope, and they're like, "This isn't my 1080p I was asking for."
Yeah, well, I mean that's what is it? I mean you could tell that they had clothes on and that there was like a hat and all that on Pitfall Harry is his name, I think.
Yeah.
You could tell like he wasn't just a stick figure. Like one of my other top Atari games is Berserk. I absolutely love Berserk, but that's just straight non-colored stick figure. There's no definition in that at all.
Yeah, that was always the. I mean, I even remember as a kid there were some games, where the coolest thing about the game was the cover.
Yep.
You're just so true, and that's even as a kid. That's not me, because I remember being disappointed by some games, and mind you, like I was. Being honest, I was born in '82, so by the time I was kind of consciously playing games, Nintendo was out with their first system, at least.
Oh yeah.
So, but I still had. I mean, there were still Ataris laying around. So, I mean, there were still fun games for it. But Pitfall wasn't one of those games. That was one game that definitely satisfied.
See, the thing is, like, I didn't like Pitfall as a kid. I hated it. It drove me nuts because compared to Super Mario Brothers, because by the time I got old enough to really play anything of value, remember it, the Atari was well on its way out. The NES was in, and I'm like, Pitfall compared to Mario, this fall crap. I keep falling in this thing of water, and the alligators keep opening up their mouths at the wrong time. This is crap.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that too. If a game was just too hard.
Yeah, it drove me nuts. Like I'm just like, screw this. But I came back to it as a teenager, and like that's when I came to like really appreciate it, especially looking at it for when it came out. Like coming back, 82. Like that's awesome for 1982.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very good, man. That game, I mean, I remember I mean something like Space Invaders, which I know was originally, arcade game, and they, kind of redid it for the Atari.
Yeah.
But I remember that being, that was a big hit, for me. That I'd call that like a simple, easy to pick up type game.
There's a lot of games though that came out in the arcade originally and were ported to the Atari 2600. Just a couple years after its initial release, and they're not bad ports. Not, I mean, at all. They're lacking a little bit, but the play is still there. The play is still pretty much the same.
I know Pac-Man was one they did. Centipede.
Yep. Centipede is one that I will argue just because I am such a huge arcade Centipede fan, where it doesn't feel right on the Atari. It doesn't have the same feel at all. It's like, but like go back to Berserk. That came out in the arcade first, and then on the Atari, and it feels almost the same. It looks slightly better in the arcade, but only slightly. Like there's literally just a few extra pixels, like on each model. Like there's not much difference.
What's an overview of Berserk? What was that?
Berserk. You start off. You're Stickman, and you're walking around, and every room that you're in looks like a maze, and there's an exit on all four sides, left, right, up, and down. And inside of every maze-like room, there's robots. And it's basically just running around, shooting the robots, moving to the next room, and then just trying to keep moving forward. And every level that you get to, the robots get harder and harder and harder. And I don't know. Like I'm not good enough at it. I don't know if there's an end game. I haven't looked it up. Yeah, and that's Berserk was also that's one of those ones where I think it plays well on the Atari. It translated well, but the arcade version is awesome because it was one of the first games to have voice synthesis in it. It had a 30-word vocabulary where it would there was speech in the game back in 1980.
Damn.
Yeah, 1980.
I think I do recall that. Yeah, it was kind of primitive. It was like, whoa,
oh yeah, it's great. Like it was so bad. Like
that scared me, man.
I thought it was great. Like if I could have been 10 years old in 1980 and played that, I would have crapped my pants.
Oh yeah,
because that's during the splash screen, like when nobody's playing. I guess the machines will sit there and say "insert coin" over and over to people like walking by.
I did watch a really neat, and I forget the name of it, but it was like a series of documentaries all about Atari during the days when people were working there. It's interviews with all those creators and all the programmers, and I forget the name for the life of me, but it was made by one of their top creators. The same, you probably know the guy, and he's made better games than this. But all I know is that he is credited with making E.T. for the Atari. Yeah, but he's made other games too that are like really like good.
I was gonna say the first thing that came to mind was Nolan Bushnell.
Might be it. That might be him. Yeah, Nolan Bushnell probably. And he did a series of documentaries, I guess, back in the 90s. At the latter days, I think, console wars, right around the time when 3D.
They were still trying to do the Jaguar thing.
Yeah. He did a little documentary then, and it was with all the programmers during the time, and it was really insightful. I mean, that was like the first video game company, and just to see how things worked there is just insane. I mean, spoiler alert, lots of drugs involved. Lots and lots of drugs. Like, I mean, they were doing, like, I mean, that's half the doc. I'm not even joking. Was them talking about just the insane amounts of drugs they they
Oh,
did.
back
So
when they were programming.
yeah, back when they were programming, yeah, they would. This guy walked through his daily routine. I mean, it was hard fucking work. He said everybody there said it was just an insane amount of work, and that
Oh
you'd be
yeah.
locked in your room. You know, you would be locked in whatever your office was.
Oh yeah. Crunch time is something that's really well known in the industry, and it's pretty always been there. It's been there since day one, when video games came.
Yeah.
That, when it's crunch time, that's developers work themselves to death. I mean, working, they're sleep, finish projects and stuff.
Yeah, and they did talk. I mean, they were everybody like they programmed who did the man for the Atari, who managed to that into an Atari into like 1,000 millions in today's money.
Yeah.
Just off because they negotiated such insane contracts that no developer is negotiating with their workers. I can't imagine that. I mean, these people. I guess everybody there was driving like a new freaking sports car or something.
Well,
Everybody.
and the thing, a lot of times back in the day too, it was either one or the other. There's a lot of guys they never got credit ever for it. The guy that programmed Adventure for the 2600, he wasn't credited for it because he was working for the company, and so he actually did the first Easter egg in a game. Where,
they talked about him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's he did it because nobody ever knew the guy's name.
Well, I guess eventually what they did was and they covered this some in the doc, and I'm kind of paraphrasing what happened, but they I guess negotiated with a few top guys. They were like, "Listen, dude, if you're not going to pay us this much, you're not going to give us this much of what we made. We're all just going to leave." And there was big rumors of that flying around, and just like they put everything on the table and just everybody got hooked up mainly. But it's a very good series of documentaries. I'll put a link up there because I had it for a while, and I will put a link up there to what those are on our Facebook page.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to check that out.
It's a little dated, but it's talking about Atari anyway. It's just a doc in the 90s talking about the 80s, so it's just maybe a tiny bit dated, but still just interesting as hell. This guy was walking through his day, and he said he would go in, whenever you wanted, you could go in, and he'd play freaking Defender, I guess, for until he got the high score on that, and then he would play Pac-Man or whatever, because they had a full-on cabinets in their office.
Yeah.
And then he said he'd get freaking really high, and just go. And they had every kind of drug there. And I guess every Friday they would just go and go out and make an alcohol run and just go and that's not for everybody. Not everybody can be like, oh, I'm gonna get drunk today. And they talked about that too. It almost reminded me of the Wolf of Wall Street in some ways.
Yeah, it was the Rockstar David Eakins, man. It was before the bubble burst in the mid '80s.
And they do talk about that once their days were numbered, then the company just changed and it became more suits and ties.
Yeah, that's Nolan Bushnell sold that company back in 82 or 83.
Yeah.
He sold it pretty early on. I think it was when.
Well, I guess it was still flying after that.
Oh yeah, Atari was still around.
They were still smoking and frickin' doing whatever.
Yeah, Atari was around. The industry hadn't crashed at that point, but it wasn't too long after Bushnell, sold out Atari that everything started taking a crash.
Because I thought it went through 2 crashes back then, from what I hear.
Well, there was the arcade and the console crash. The console crash happened a little bit later after the arcade crash.
Yeah, because I know there was a crash. In the late 70s, 79. That must have been the arcade crash.
Yeah, I think that might have been the arcade crash.
And then I don't know. I see so many docs about this covering, but I do know there was too many crashes, and I know there was one that weeded out most of the systems and left pretty much just Atari standing, but very weakly, because there was a shitload of competitors back then. If you think about it, systems with better graphics than the Atari even.
Oh yeah, what is it? And it was either one other or both with Intellivision or ColecoVision that
Yeah,
technically like their hardware was superior
yeah,
to Atari, but they ended up going under before they could make any real headway.
yeah. But I mean, you see that same cycle even repeated. I mean, it was repeated, during the console wars in the '90s. I mean, with
Oh yeah, there was a
Sega
lot going
Nintendo,
on.
yeah. I mean, because people were like, "Oh no, there's no way anybody's going to take." I mean, Nintendo certainly didn't have the superior graphics over Sega, um, but I mean, it cranked. I mean, because it cranked out more games. It was more affordable. Guess what?
Well,
Everyone's getting.
because I mean there was a big gap between when the Genesis and the NES came out. So the NES already had a huge library by the time Genesis ever hit.
Yeah,
You know.
it's the whole. If you sell more razors or razors, you'll get more razor or whatever the fuck. You sell more razor blades, you get more razors or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
But yeah, I mean that's I mean it keeps going in cycles, but it seems like now not so much. I mean there's so few. It's basically just the three big consoles and then
Yeah,
computer,
Nintendo's hanging on. Just I don't know how. I don't know how they're
PCs made a
doing it.
big comeback, but Nintendo's been getting a hurt
Yeah,
since they dropped the Wii and went with the Wii U. I mean, it's not that they haven't sold a fair amount of systems, it's that their business model is set on them selling millions and millions and millions of units constantly, and they're
yeah,
not doing that anymore. They're running. I don't know what numbers are compared to the PS4 and Xbox One, but I know their launch was tiny in comparison, and their month over month unit sales are just crap. I mean, it's something like a tenth of what they sell in Nintendo DS's. Like
yeah.
their mobile
I mean, that's
system's
where they
killing.
started was handheld systems. I mean,
Well,
Nintendo. If you go back to it,
yeah,
uh,
well, I mean that's the original Game Boy. I mean that it just blew up, and
oh, I loved
they've
it. Yeah.
always owned the handheld market.
Yeah. That was I remember the original Game Boy. That was one of the first systems that they actually tried selling to adults and saying, hey, they'd have like I remember they had a commercial with a business guy in a suit, playing it. He's like, oh, this is what I like to do.
Well, they even had a printer that would come. Like you could buy a printer for the original Game
Yeah, I
Boy.
remember that. And the camera. They
Yeah,
had, yeah, I had friends with the whole setup. It was like, oh my god.
yep. It was
Uh,
horrible quality, but yeah, I
yeah.
mean that's
Well, at the time, you're like, holy shit.
oh yeah, that was crazy. I mean there was nothing like it, and I think that's part of Nintendo's problem is that they're not coming up with really anything new. Basically, all they did, with the Wii, they did with the way you control the games. But with the Wii U, they just went, here's a
Yeah.
tablet with your game console. There you go.
Yeah. If,
Like
if
it.
you, yeah, I might be a little biased. I mean, I love Nintendo, but if you take my opinion, I say they started probably going down, once the GameCube and shit was hitting the
See,
street.
which that
And-
actually, I didn't understand that because I still own a GameCube. I love the
right?
GameCube.
I guess
And
maybe just because I never owned a GameCube, I jumped straight to PlayStation, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I jumped straight from I had an SNES, and I just saw a friend of mine had the PlayStation, and I was like, this is what I'm getting.
oh yeah, I
So,
owned a PlayStation first, but I did eventually get a GameCube, and I know the GameCube is where Nintendo took a big dip before they went back, and did the Wii. But
yeah.
I never quite
It was a good
understood it.
system, though, man. I've
Yeah,
seen some games played on it. You know what? It was the GameCube, then Nintendo 64.
no, it was Nintendo 64 and then GameCube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, God, I'm a
Yeah,
dumbass.
GameCube was their first one where it had a disc drive because 64, like people were surprised that they came out with a system that still had cartridges.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, well, they held on to cartridges for the longest time because they were afraid of piracy for whatever reason.
Yep.
Look what came out first to download for free. Was
Yeah.
any cartridge game. I mean, if somebody wants to get it, they'll get it.
Yeah.
Out there. But I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's for all practical purposes, it makes it a lot harder to. Well, I don't think they had emulation in mind at the time, though, because if you look back when the 64 first came out, what was it in the mid late 90s,
yeah, it was
you know,
definitely before all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
computers were computer, a 200 megahertz computer wasn't powerful enough to be able to emulate a 64.
No, no, no. I'd say now. I mean, like you said, with PCs making a big gaming comeback. I mean, thanks to Steam and that kind of stuff. I'd say. I mean, and they even have their own kind of system, coming out. Um,
Yeah, I'm not excited about the Steam boxes. I'm really disappointed.
ooh,
I've been a huge advocate of Steam, and I thought the idea was great. And then they announced it, and they're just expensive computers.
that's what
They're
I've
not
heard. I've
console
heard it's kind of
competitors.
like yeah, it's kind of like getting an Alienware computer or something like that. From
Yeah,
what
it
you're
makes
saying.
no sense when they're basically trying to sit down and compete with consoles, but they're priced at $1,000 and more.
Yeah, they haven't learned any lesson.
No, you're not going to compete with Xbox and PlayStation when your console costs a thousand
No,
dollars.
no. It's like I might as well just. Yeah, that. I mean, I love the game Steam has to offer. I mean, I'm a big Civilization fan going way back. If we want to talk about like my some of my favorite old school games, it's anything by Sid Meier. And he goes back to Nintendo and Super Nintendo. Even Nintendo, he did a pirate game. You know,
Yeah, I never played that one. The only Sid Meier
yeah,
games I think I've ever played were just Civ 4. I might have played Civ 3, but I played Civ 4
yeah.
mainly.
Civ 3 was for the PC. It's when I think he kind of abandoned the systems, even though there's probably the computers or PCs or whatever. Um, but I mean, I'm pretty sure like Civ 2 was probably on a PC, but I played it on the PlayStation, and that game just sucked hours and hours and hours away from my life, man. Like that game is the devil. And I mean, if you love strategy games, and then when you move up from that to like Civ 3 or Civ 4 or 5, I mean, there's no going back to the previous games. I mean, he improves on them so much. I'd say Civ 5 is the best one yet that's out right now.
I don't know if I have.
It's Steam. It's on
As I
Steam.
say, I don't know if I have 4 or 5 because I know it's one of those that I've got on Steam, and I've put in a few hours in that, and it was pretty good. I need to get back to it at some point, though.
Yeah, it might be 5 if it has. I mean, I kind of skipped 4, but I've heard it's just It's too much micromanagement in 4. Like it's just, which is, I mean, a little bit of that is fun, but you have to streamline it in some way, and I guess that's what 5 does. Is it streamlines it, but not it doesn't streamline it to the point where it's like Civilization Revolution, which was out for the Xbox, which was just really really simplified. I mean, like you're gonna win in this one way, and you can beat the
Yeah.
game in like an hour.
Do you
Um,
want to? Can you take a minute real quick and restart your video? I just noticed that your video is frozen, and it looks like you're just glaring at us.
okay, let me try and do that here. Sorry.
No, that's great. I don't know how long it's been like that. I just noticed that it looks like you just got this intense stare going
Oh, I'm
on.
sorry. There we go. It's telling me cannot restart video. Oh, Jeebus. Here we go.
Oh no.
Oh no. I don't have anything else running here.
Oh, I should have just
Guess I'm
left
just
the angry
glaring at you
stare.
guys.
Oh no, it's on a loading screen right now, flipping back and forth.
Oh, that sucks.
That's all right. I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just left the angry glare for another half
Yeah,
an
I saw
hour.
that for a second just before you said that. I was like, how long was I doing that? Oh, great. All right.
Oh, Skype. That's Jason Weaver and I. We had fun with Skype. Our first episode of the Disposable Stream on Monday. I don't know. Skype always seems to find a way to just break itself.
Yeah. Ah, fucking A Skype. I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna do Dungeons and Dragons, man. I just don't. uh,
Uh, all right.
well,
Here, I was saying, let me try to find another pretty picture to throw up over
yeah.
your now
There you go.
blank
Just pretend I'm
space.
saying something intently every time. Very
But yeah, PC gaming. I mean, do you do any PC gaming nowadays outside of, outside of the Civ series?
The Civ series, I jammed out on, I mean, a few of the Diablo games. I haven't played the newest one just because someone told me, like, oh, it's gonna suck. It just sucks, or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Which
Like,
one?
one, the newest ones, Diablo 3.
Oh, tell them to fuck their face.
Should they?
Diablo 3 started off as a steamy hot pile of crap because they had an actual real money auction system where you could sell items for real money. And it sucked. It broke the game because you had to play just dozens and dozens of hours on the hardest settings to get single pieces of decent equipment.
That's a load of bullshit.
But just within the past month, they completely got rid of it. No more auction house systems, and they patched the game, and
That's
it's
good.
fun as hell again. It is great.
Sounds good.
If you get it, you need to tell me if you get it so we can play it, man.
Yeah.
That game is great now. I love it.
Okay. Well, I might check it out now. But yeah, maybe it was you who was telling me that. Yeah, an auction system just like that kind of shit. Listen, I don't want to pump any more money into a game than me having to fucking buy the actual game.
And the
I'm
thing
sorry.
is, like, I play some free to play games. I don't mind in game purchases when it's convenience and cosmetic. But when it
Yeah.
goes against the spirit of the game or it's game breaking or it gives other players advantages just because they spent more money, that's crap. I don't want to
Yeah,
have
I-
anything to do with it.
it is lame. It takes so much away from it. Like I mean, yeah, you didn't get this because you know how to play the game or you even grind it out on it. I mean, you're just fucking I fuck it. I don't know. It
Yeah.
infuriates me that it's the cheapest way just to get money.
Yeah, and I don't mind in game purchases. I just don't like when it feels like it's game breaking.
Uh-huh.
That's if somebody wants to pay an extra $10 so their character can wear a prettier costume, then go for it. If somebody wants to pay $10 for it, let them. That's perfectly fine by me. But don't
Right.
put paywalls in a game, especially if you've already paid for the game.
You said it just right there, paywall. That's it right there.
Yeah,
The
it
paywall.
just it infuriates me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
that is that's the perfect. Exactly what I was thinking of. A paywall. You're just gonna throw up
Yep.
a big wall of money. Like does that? I mean, that's what scares me about the futures. I hope not all games are like that, to where I'm just gonna have to pay. I mean, fuck that, dude. I'll just bust out a pen and paper every time.
Oh, that's companies were trying to do that with console games this past generation. EA was the biggest one trying to do that. They basically set it up so that you buy the newest NBA game from them.
Uh
You
huh.
go home, you put in your online passcode or whatever, and you get to play the full game, get to play it online with friends, no problem. Say you go sell that game and then somebody buys a used copy of that at GameStop, that person, in addition to paying for the used copy, they'd have to pay a $10 or $15 fee to be able to play that game online.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, oh my God, like that drove me insane. I'm just like, fuck that so
Yeah, it's supposed
much.
to be marching in the streets, man.
Well, they gave up on it. They reversed their decision on it and gave up because people were just pissed.
Yeah, after you pay like especially with console games, man. I mean, you're paying 60, $80. Well, PC games too are like this. I mean, come on, dude. You're dropping, I mean, like yeah, pretty much nearly $80. What is it for a new game? Like about that.
Yeah, you're paying $60 for a new game. If, with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One to be able to play games online, you're paying $10, $15 a month.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's games, which I think it's stupid, but it's not necessary, at least to be able to play the game online, is like Call of Duty Elite, where you can pay an
Uh-huh.
extra $10 a month or whatever to have extra features. It's like, fuck that, when everything's said and done for that one game and all the monthly fees, you're paying the better part of $100 that first month for that
Yeah,
one
fuck.
game.
Yeah, I don't need that.
That's insane.
Nah, I'm happy with what I got.
I could go and take $5-10, buy a brand new game from an indie developer on PC,
Yeah.
and none of that's going to crazy executives or anything like that. That's going straight
No.
to the developer and
That's
keeping
what I
somebody
like.
independent.
Yeah, I want it to go straight to the betterment of this game.
Yeah.
my brother-in-law was telling me about a game that he plays on Steam called I think it's called Kerbal Space Station
I've
or
heard of
something,
that, but I haven't checked it out at
or
all
Space
yet.
Program, Space Program.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to get in. I guess that's a pretty cheap game, relatively, to play, and it's just real fun. What you're pretty much doing is you're building like satellites and space type equipment for space exploration. You have your own space program, and you're going off into this. It's pretty much our universe, but everything's called a different name. And
Yeah.
you're trying to go and explore the moon. The first thing is you want to get something in orbit, then you want to try and get to our moon, and then you can go out throughout, our galaxy, and start sending stuff out there. So it's a really, really neat game that just came out. And it's kind of in that spirit of like a Sid Meier's. I mean, it's equal parts fun and educational, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard of it, and I've heard great things about it, but I haven't checked it out at all yet. That's something I'm gonna have to look into soon. That's if
Yeah.
I'm not too like if me and my wife end up getting that pile of Atari games. That's if I'm not completely consumed by sifting through that pile all weekend because
Yeah.
this upcoming
Kind of
weekend
going.
is gonna be gaming time, man.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm gonna jam out on some Atari.
Yeah,
Um,
with me doing the second podcast and then working full time, it's crazy. When we first started the show, it's like we could have done like 20 hours of episodes every week, no problem. I would have had plenty
oh
of
yeah.
time for it. And now it's like, okay, we got our 1 hour designated. I don't know if I have enough time to be able to play enough games before the next episode.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely it forces you to schedule a little better.
Oh
It's got
yeah.
because you got a kid too, but I mean you can always play games with the kid. Make
Yeah,
it.
that's the thing. Yeah, she totally loves games and digs that
Yeah.
stuff. She's
Let me do some homework.
The thing is, lately she's been, which I blame myself, and I think it's okay, but she's been really big into Pokemon games.
Oh,
So she hasn't been wanting to play like the obscure stuff as much.
uh,
Yeah, she's got to catch them all, man. I mean,
right. I played a little bit of one. I always kind of hated on it because I thought it was like stealing Dragon Ball Z's thunder. I was like, "Fuck Pokemon! They're little kids that can get their ass kicked by a Super Saiyan. They need their little pet to defend them."
see, I just dismissed it because I was old enough when it got really popular that I'm like fuck that. That's just little kid bullshit. And then I think late in high school or something like that, I played one of the Game Boy Advance versions of it, and come to find out, it's a really fun, really solid
I,
RPG.
I think that's what I did. I played like a few minutes of one of the Game Boy versions, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually kind of fun." But I
Yeah.
didn't. I still never dived in, head on. I just didn't, for whatever reason. But I did. I do remember just a little bit and thinking, "Oh, this isn't, half terrible." But
Oh, I've played the crap out of
yeah,
Ruby Red, and I think Platinum on the DS is the other one that I played. I haven't played all of them. I'm not one of those people that's like, I got rid of the DS a long time ago. I haven't upgraded to a 3DS. I'd like to play the new Pokemon games, but it's like
yeah.
there's still so many good old games that I want to get to. It's hard to justify buying a new system.
Well, same here. I mean, speaking of old games, crazy cool old games. I just wanted to read off this list of Atari games that I picked up that just looked cool, and I think they would make like really kick-ass titles for like just current games. You still there,
Yeah,
everybody? Okay.
yeah. No, I was just sitting waiting for the list.
All right. Here's a few things. I don't know. They sounded cool to me. Uh, this can maybe be rephrased in some ways, but I picked this up just because it sounded cool. A mysterious thief, and I guess there's a game out now called Thief.
Yeah, I've heard
So
of that. I've heard the new Thief game is actually really good, but I have no knowledge of either of
sounds
those.
very badass. Something called A Team, which I'm guessing is based off the A
Oh,
Team.
have you played A Team on Atari yet?
No, I have not.
Oh, you're in for a treat. I did it just because I'm like, holy shit, an old A Team Atari game. I got to play this, and then I played it. It is incredibly fun. It's one of the most fun Atari games that I've ever played, I think.
Oh damn!
And
I
it
need to
just
get it.
it's just out of nowhere. Like it's silly. It doesn't seem to really make any sense. I don't really know what's going on, but it's just fun to play.
Is Mr. T in it?
Yes, he is.
Oh damn!
Yes, sir.
I gotta
Definitely,
check
yeah.
it
You need
out.
to play that. You need to play. That's your mission for this weekend is play some A Team, man.
I'm getting on it. Here's one they need to make a game about, which they may have kind of in some way already. It's called Bloody Human Freeway. I don't know
Is
what
that was that a licensed game or is that
I
like?
don't know, but it was called Bloody Human Freeway,
It
and
sounds
I
like one
said,
of those games that
"Getting
was like
this."
banned in Australia or something.
Yeah. Here's another one in that same vein that I thought was pretty cool, and I was the second I read the name, I was like, I'm getting this one. Earth Dies Screaming.
Yeah, I've
That needs to be a
not.
game now, dude. Like they could just that title alone, they could make a badass game. Something done in like a B horror movie style. I
Yeah,
don't.
I need to check that out. Earth
Yeah,
Dies Screaming. I've never heard of that before.
Earth Dies Screaming. I know that's a good concept. If there's any game developers out there listening, that would make it. There needs to be something done in that kind of style. I think we're ready for that. Something trauma like. Um, Here's another one. Cosmic Creeps. I thought that screamed out to me.
That seems I don't know, that feels a little pervy to me.
Cosmic Creeps. Oh,
Cosmic
you want to hear
Creeps.
Furby? I saw one called Bachelor Party.
Nice. It's like was it Custer's Revenge? Have you ever heard of
Yeah, I
that?
think it was something like that. Like you're just, you're at a bachelor party.
God, that was horrible. I'm
I
like
don't know.
that was never Custer's Revenge was never an official release. But for anybody that hasn't seen or played Custer's Revenge, take a minute, go look at YouTube, go look for it. It's
Yeah.
essentially you're a character. I think you start on the right side of the screen and you just walk across the screen to the left, dodging arrows on the way so that you can rape Pocahontas while she's tied up to a post. That's the whole game.
That's funny. What's crazy is I've seen worse games.
Yes.
I've seen more offensive games,
I saw that back in high
or
school
as
and I'm like,
offensive
what
games.
the hell is this?
Yeah, I've seen parts of it. We should do a whole episode just on like pornographic games and
Oh
just
God.
nudity in games.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Go into the games, unofficial releases and stuff because that's outside of just the really like freaky ones like that. There's all types of weird shit out there, especially for the Atari. Like I
Oh
was
yeah.
just reading something that there's typically a dozen games or so released for the Atari 2600 every year still.
Oh damn.
Yeah,
Well,
like
there's far more games for it
there's
out
still
than.
people making games for it every year. So like I'd love to try to hunt down a website to be able to find newer releases and see what it's like.
That'd be great. I know they're doing the same thing with Nintendo games as well. You can get there's people who release new Nintendo games.
Yeah, that'd
Oh,
be great. I mean, I've dabbled in game development. I'm more of a designer. I'd say I'm more of a designer than a developer because I don't have programming skills.
yeah.
Um, but one of the recent projects that I was working on, we weren't programming it to run on a Nintendo, but I was doing all the graphic work and I was working in the 256 by 240 pixel, resolution, and I was using the same color palette available for the Nintendo. And I loved it. I actually preferred working inside of those constraints compared to, 1080p with an unlimited, millions
Oh
of
man.
colors. Like I liked having to work in those constraints. It was fun and challenging.
Yeah, it sounds like you could be more inventive in
Yeah,
some.
you have to be. You've got to figure out stuff, to make it work. I mean, it's hard.
Here's another one. It's called Demon Attack. What better game? What better
Demon
name
Attack.
for
It's
Demon Attack? There's gonna be some demons and they're gonna be attacking.
it's
In that same vein, Dragon Defender.
I wonder what you do in that game.
I don't know if you're a dragon defending stuff. If
That
you're
would
defending
actually
some
be pretty
dragon,
cool if you are the dragon defending.
yeah, or you are the dragon defender, blah, blah. Or someone's like you're defending a dragon,
Or there's that spin on it
like a bunch of
too.
people,
What
or
sort of
just like
sad dragon needs like a single guy with a
yeah,
sword to defend it though?
some bodyguard shit.
Yeah, it's the lazy sick dragon.
I got this, and this is a popular game, I believe. Ikari Warriors.
I have heard of it. I have never played that before.
Yeah, I believe that was developed by a girl too, on
Lady
Atari.
developers.
Lady developers, but I guess this is that's a super popular one.
That's actually
Um,
that's for Atari.
yeah, that was an Atari 2600,
That just
and
it
I'm
just
sure they've done
surprises
some
me.
re-releases of these. Yeah,
It just surprised me a bit because I've done a bit of reading into the history of gaming, and yeah, even today there's a lot more women that are in game development than there ever has been, but they I think they still make up less than 20% of all developers or something.
yeah,
It's still a
it's
really small percentage.
yeah, it's still kind of sad. I mean, it is. I mean, I think there's. I'd assume there's equal parts girl gamers now, but
Yeah,
maybe.
it's actually there's more female gamers than male gamers total
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah, and that's that they've attributed and it's not the thing is
They're
that
not all
I
playing
think
Call of Duty.
well, I think I don't quote me. I could be wrong, and I could just sound sexist. Women play social games more than men do, but women play console games almost at the as much as men do as well. So
Okay.
because of that extra social game push, they actually end up they're over half of the demographic now.
Yeah, I assume it's growing because I know a few, or at least I went to school with a few girls that played video games, and
Oh yeah, there's a lot more now. Back when I was in school, I remember a handful of chicks that used to play games, and that was pretty
yeah,
much it. And they were the oddballs because they played video games like guys
yeah.
do.
Well, now I kind of make fun of that too because now you get like the every once in a while, like, and I've seen it on Xbox and stuff for a short time. It's like, yeah, I'm a girl and I'm a gamer. It's like, really, like you're a fucking dinosaur and I just found you. Like, it's just not rare anymore.
Yeah, it's like nobody
You know?
cares anymore. Go back to
Yeah,
'92 and flaunt that.
that's what just makes me laugh. It's like, oh my god, a girl who picks up a controller and what's next? A girl who reads comics and a girl who does dishes and makes babies and
Wait, I think you're flipping that around now.
yeah, I don't know. It's just ridiculous,
You've offended all two of our female listeners.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know what? I'm sure you ladies do dishes
I was gonna
great.
say all two of them, meaning my wife and your girlfriend.
Right. I'll let them know just to, keep the house clean and
Make me a sandwich.
bum, bum. That should be one of their video games for ladies where they just have to make a sandwich.
Diner Dash.
Yeah, there you go.
Just saying.
That's sexist. I'm sorry.
That
I don't
was.
really believe this stuff.
We're not actually sexist. We just like to play pretend.
Yeah, it's just a joke.
It's He's a
But yeah, there's
comedian.
definitely an equal amount of girl gamers, and I assume they have different, maybe not that different a taste than
Not
guys.
really. I mean, that's when I was looking at the numbers. I mean, yeah, women lean a little bit heavier towards social games as far as like games on Facebook and stuff. But
Uh-huh.
overall, console games, there isn't like, oh well, we need to cater to the female market. Not really. They're more than happy playing the exact same games that are out there for
Yeah,
everybody, which is great.
right. I mean, I myself don't even like some of like the super machismo type games. Like, I'm not a big like Call of Duty and you know
I'm hit and miss.
war shooter games. I'm just not big on it. Like for some reason, I don't know why. It just doesn't really.
I don't like the multiplayer anymore, which is weird because like a few years ago, like I was totally like chugging a Mountain Dew and playing Call of Duty. Not that
Yeah,
I didn't appreciate, games of all varieties, but I spent a ton of time doing
yeah,
that, and I just don't have a taste for it anymore. I still like, like a Call of Duty. I like playing through the first person, or through the single player mode now. I like playing and watching the story.
uh,
I've softened up a bit, I think.
yeah. That's what I like. I like doing like I'd love to go and play a BioShock and stuff like that. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
actually,
BioShock definitely.
and I've said this 1,000 times. I mean, I played through Batman Arkham Asylum completely. I love that. Just something that I can
Yep.
jam out on a couple weekends. And finish up. I like that kind of stuff. Getting that involved in the whole like the massive multi 14-year-old kid cussing me out. Like
I
I don't need all that.
Dude, I've been in those games where, yeah, I've got 10 and 11-year-olds like screaming and cussing, and I've been in a room where a kid like started crying because he was getting the shit kicked, just the shit kicked out of him. Like,
It is fun seeing that happen.
yeah, where it was funny because like which I was kind of glad that the other guys that were in chat They picked on him a little bit, but nobody got overtly rude or graphic or anything because it
Right.
was, it was like a 10 or 11-year-old kid. But, they did just beat the crap out of him. I mean, they just owned him in the game, and yeah, he ended up crying and leaving.
Uh,
It's like,
I,
good. You shouldn't have
I've
been an
seen.
asshole and run your mouth in the first place.
Yeah, I was gonna say on that point, I can't see why some girls would, would say that we're not quite there yet and bitch about sexism, because I have run into a few occasions where, someone's yelling at this 13-year-old kid, and then you come to find out it's a 26-year-old girl playing because they just, and you can't tell just by voices or something.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, oh,
there's
sorry,
still a lot of
we just
sexism in
saw
the
it.
industry, but I think, I mean, as far as developers, I don't remember the numbers at all, but I know there's way more female game developers than there used to be. And
Yeah, it's
bigger
there.
companies are actually wanting to have more female developers in there to make sure, like, not even to like put a feminine touch on things, but just to make
Right.
sure that there's not too much testosterone influencing something,
Well,
just to
yeah,
have a
I think
balance.
the days of the days of just like a Duke Nukem style shoot 'em up and that kind of stuff are pretty much over.
Yeah,
So
they're going to be out there, but it's not, the
not
main
main.
market anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever be in the main marketing. I mean, well, they had the last Duke Nukem game, but I don't even think that had.
That
I think it
flopped
was
that
more of a
flopped
soccer
so
gear
hard.
itself in a way, right? From what I heard, it was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, that flopped hard.
Um.
Well, it took them like 12 years to come out with the thing and then it sucked.
Yeah.
So,
I think the last one I played at Duke Nukem was like Time to Kill,
I think the
and
last one I played was maybe the original.
PlayStation, and I played the original. Time to Kill was fun, man. They didn't have any, at least as far as I remember, no real explicit nudity. But I was like, oh my god, I'm a teenager and I'm playing this game, blowing shit up. But now it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not anti that kind of more adult theme type games. I'm not saying go Custer's Revenge. I think that was done out of depression. But like a God of War doesn't bother me. I like a little bit of or a Conan type thing.
Well, I
Something
don't
like
mind
that.
it as
Love
long
it.
as there's story and or gameplay to back it up. I
Exactly. Give me
mean,
some story.
yeah. Yeah, it's got to make sense. Or sometimes the weird random thing is all right. That's I'm gonna a game that I mentioned on the show before is Shoot One Up by Mommy's Best Games.
Yeah.
It's not explicitly graphic, but at one point for no good reason, there's like it's a shmup, and for some reason one of the bosses is a woman with giant metal boobs that shoot out rockets.
See, I don't see what's wrong with that.
That's the thing. Like it doesn't make any sense. But it's not. I mean, there's no nipples or anything. There's nothing actually graphic. It's just so out there and absurd, and I loved it. I'm just like, that's great. That
Right.
is hilarious. That's one of those things that made me like reach out to the guy that made that game originally. I'm just like, this game is incredibly fun, and there's some ridiculous shit in here. I'm digging it.
Damn.
Well,
I
shit,
think
man. We're at about an hour already.
oh snap. It looks like it. Yeah, I was noticing that myself.
Yeah, holy crap.
But it's been a fun episode. We'll definitely have to cover. I definitely want to talk more about this subject of violence in games and get more on the graphic side of it. But what would you say to sum up Atari? Because I guess that was our theme for today, or supposed to be.
All
Yeah, it
right.
kind of leads into this.
Well, I
I mean,
mean, the Atari 2600 in summary for me because I didn't grow up on it, so I can look back at it not with a huge bag of nostalgia weighing me down. That
right?
I think that some of the games, the mechanics still hold up today. I wouldn't say the majority of the games, but there's still a lot of games that are still fun today. And if I mean, they pioneered the home video game. They were it. It was Nolan Bushnell, the guy that helped make Pong come into existence. He got together, put out Atari, and if it wasn't for the Atari, who knows where the home console would be right now.
Yeah, I'd probably say much the same thing in summary. I mean, I didn't grow up with it either, but I do recall it. I remember the system I played on it, and there were some solid games for it, and it was a fun system, and it did what it was supposed to do. Um, So yeah, definitely. Yeah, what Kyle said.
Yeah, what that guy said.
What Kyle said. He's smart.
Right? Yeah, maybe we'll cover. Maybe throughout the week we'll message back and forth, figure out a couple of old games to play,
Yeah,
be it
definitely. 'Cause you definitely got
Atari
my
or
mind
whatever the
turned.
hell,
Yeah.
and come back and report on those. And fuck it, yeah, calling it a week.
All right, there we go.
All right,
Episode
man.
7.
It's been a good week, dude.
Right on.
Episode
See you guys.
11, the big 1-1.
Yeah, I love it. Peace.
Peace.
Go listen to that Tool song.